What up, fam? Today I had on Eddy Soffer, the ESG manager at Interactive Brokers, which is one of the top online brokers in the world. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. So think impact investing and everything having to do with social responsibility and sustainability. Eddy is one of the leads for IB's ESG strategy and planning. He has had a very unique and inspiring upbringing in Mexico. He started his financial journey over 20 years ago, and he developed an affinity for sustainability, and his journey inspired him and his team to develop an app called Impact, a values-aligned trading platform for the modern investor. Guys, the Impact app is super cool, and you're gonna learn more about it in the show. Eddy's diverse background and culture experiences continue to fuel his career and passions and advocacy for more inclusive societies and communities, and puts those core commitments into his life and into his work. You don't want to miss this podcast, guys. We dive into different financial aspects and what goes into investing your money into sustainable businesses. I want to give a special thank you and shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Conscious Capitalism Los Angeles, whose aim is to connect, inspire, and cultivate conscious business leaders in LA, and is a key piece of a larger scale worldwide conscious capitalism movement. Guys, if you get value from the show, you dig it, you like a little snippet from it, whatever it is, share it with a friend, tag me on social, and definitely subscribe. It means the world to me. I really appreciate you spending time with us. Enjoy the show. Eddy, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. We were just chatting about some cold water dips right now. I had just jumped in the ocean. You were talking about how much you love going to the water. Why do you love that so much?
Because it really makes you feel alive. You know, it's sort of like a shock to your system in a good way. And I think when you do it, you have to embrace it, right? Don't go in like all afraid and stuff. Just go for it. And once you come out, you'll feel like you can conquer the world, at least for a minute, and then you come back to it. Yeah. But it's really, really an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, I love that too. I feel the same. It totally makes you feel alive. And I just finished reading this book called Untethered Soul, which is kind of like a 101 from a spiritual book standpoint. I feel like I should have read it 15 years ago when I read the Four Agreements. But for whatever reason, books come at you at different times. And one of those things talks a lot about when you experience like discomfort emotions, to really just relax into them as opposed to fighting them. And I think about the same thing when I go into really cold water. It's so natural to, and like so if you just go for it and just relax, it's like a totally different experience. And I think that's so many things in life. It could go that way, just like with cold water.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, that's an awesome book. I also read it. It's really amazing. Lots of gems that come out of that book.
Seriously, it really is. I'm actually considering just rereading it like now, like just right away, just rereading it again. Yeah. Anyway, so Eddy, I started all my podcasts by asking my guests, what was your last oh shit moment? Whatever comes to mind. It could be good. It could be bad.
Okay. Something did come to mind now. So I'm mostly a vegan, and I was with my spouse at this fancy Asian restaurant recently. And so, when you go to those restaurants, you have to make sure that they don't serve anything that has stuff that you can't eat. So make sure they did that. So ordering a rice, and I'm eating it and looking at it, I'm like, oh, wow, it has tofu. This is awesome. So I started like taking big bites, and then I started chewing, and I'm like, oh shit, it's not tofu, it's lobster. So it kind of made me freak out, because I never had lobster in my life. I mean, of course, some people love it, but I just never had it. Yeah. And it was like rubbery, consistent. I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna? So it's kind of like what we just chatted about, Seb. It's like you have to sort of relax into it, not tense up and say, okay, listen, this is a mistake. Somebody kind of messed up, and then we resolved it. The waiter came, he apologized, and we had a free dinner and free dessert. So it all worked out great. But yeah, that was definitely an OS moment. It was kind of shocking to me. I was like, oh, what is that?
That's a perfect oh shit moment right there. Yeah, definitely. I'm actually not a fan of lobster either. I don't really get the whole all the hype, to be honest. It's very rubbery, like you said. Yeah. So Eddy, investing and finance in general, it just could be such a dry subject. To a lot of people, it could be very boring. And frankly, I feel that more recently, in the more recent era, it's become pretty cool. It's become different, and now you got all these young kids calling themselves investors at a really early young age, and a lot of them really are investors. Why do you think that's happened so much recently?
I think that there's a number of reasons. I think the newer generations or the younger generations like millennials and Gen Zs deeply care about this. It's kind of like their genetic material, honestly, and you're seeing it. But more recently, because of world events, everything that you see happening, we had the pandemic, right? We had social justice issues. We have a war going on now. We have climate change. All of this, in my opinion, wake up calls
Mm,
for Earth and all of us in this planet are really making people wake up and are really making people sort of take a step back and say, what's really important to me? And how can I express myself and my values through my investments or through my money? And I think that's why, especially now in the last few years, it's really accelerated more than I've ever seen. And I've been looking at social responsible investing for the last 7 or 8 years. So it's definitely like gone like this
yeah.
in just the last few years.
So it's a great thing. It's not just the trend. It's not just because somebody tried to make it cool and it caught on. It's because people are caring more. So you're seeing is truly a positive thing. Yeah.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, and I think it's here to stay. Honestly, it's the world that we live in now, and we're seeing it just with everything, like climate change. You're seeing all. Look what's happening in Europe. What's happening here.
Yeah.
So it's things that we need to deal with.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Eddie, you're an ESE manager at Interactive Brokers. Interactive Brokers is one of the top brokers online in the world. ESG is environmental, social, and governance. So, to be honest, it's something that I wasn't really too aware of. So, what is exactly ESG?
Sure. And there's so many ways to refer to ESG. So when you refer to like environment, social, and governance, it's under each one of those buckets, there are a number of factors to consider. But basically, I would say like a high level definition is channeling resources or channel things that would help the planet, the earth, and society and communities. So that kind of brings it to a very generic level. Some people call it sustainability. You're hearing a lot about that, and so yeah, that's what ESG is all about.
And it's essentially impact investing, right? I mean, it's what a lot of people call impact investing. So, one way or another, it's a positive impact in the world through finance and investments.
Yes, and so there's also like social responsible investing. There's impact investing. There's responsible invest. There's so many
So, it's a
acronyms, so
part of
many
it.
ways to define it, but
Got
it
it.
could be a part of it. But yeah, ultimately, again, is channeling resources for the better of the planet
Yeah.
and our communities.
That's awesome. So, Eddie, how is ESG or impact investing the future of investing? And is that just millennials and Gen Z that we're talking about here?
So I'm revealing my cards here. I'm not really a millennial. I'm a little older than that, and I care deeply about that. So yes, I think the driving factor these days, Seb, is definitely millennials and Gen Zs, as I was mentioning before, because it really is something that they deeply care about. But it's also for other generations like myself. I've been in finance for so many years, and I've always been working on it and always trying to find, okay, what is the ultimate goal and purpose of this finance? How are we helping the planet? How are we doing something to assist others? And that's how I discovered ESG. So I think it's also for people like myself, and I think that's growing more and more as we see what's happening in the world. It's making us
Yeah.
all reflect.
Yeah.
So many generations are also jumping on board.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing. What can you walk me through what a real life client would be like in the ESG sector, right? You get somebody in, it's got several $1 million to invest, or maybe not several $1 million to invest or something small. Does that change if somebody comes in with 10 million to invest versus somebody that comes in with 100 grand, for example?
Absolutely not. We at Interactive Brokers, especially, and we might talk about this a little bit later through the Impact app. It's open to anyone. We don't have sort of like a threshold, prohibitive threshold for you to come in, right? And basically, what we do with the app is we allow you to invest with what you care about most,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like you talked about ESG, and I referred to it also sustainability. Everyone's definition of it is different, right? So you might care more about clean oceans, and I might care more about gender equality. And so we allow the opportunity for all of our potential investors and existing clients to select what things really resonate with them. their personal values. We have 13 of them that fall into the bucket of environment, social, and governance.
Mm.
And then with that, we have what we call an impact lens. So it's a customized investing experience where you'll be able to go in and take a look at how your existing investments align with your values. And if you're just getting started, we can also give you a hand, right? So you'll be able to see on the app, okay, this particular securities align the most with the values you just entered, right? So we kind of give you an opportunity to also research and to look at more things into how you can get started in social responsible investing.
That's
and
great.
It's very easy.
What's the minimum for someone to get started, for example?
Well, it could actually be as low as $100 or $50
really?
to fund your account. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So
we
really,
have it on the app itself. Correct. Go ahead.
Most people have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to save $100 this month and I'm going to start investing it in something I care about and that impacts the world. And that's awesome. They can do that.
Yeah. And we also have the ability for people, this is called like fractional shares, and a lot of our peers in the industry see it. It's like, some stocks are just really expensive. Like one share would be $1,000, $3,000, $4,000.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to what they call fractional shares, is to not buy the entire share.
Yeah.
Buy a percentage of it. And that way you can definitely also be a contributor if you really like that company and you feel it aligns with your values.
Right.
You can make an investment in them too.
That's great. Eddy, from my understanding, Europe and the US are different in how they disclose sustainability practices and investment guidelines and things like that. What are the main differences there?
So you've done your research. Yes, Europe is definitely far ahead than the United States. It's been like that, for quite some time. And so the regulatory environment and the interest and sort of the awareness of sustainability is definitely more pronounced than in the United States. The US is definitely starting to catch up more. And I think it's because of all the things that I mentioned before, how the Gen Zs and millennials or others are starting to demonstrate what they care about through the power of the wallet. And so the disclosures tend to be a little more strict in Europe, where you have to start sort of saying, okay, this particular fund does invest in sustainable companies, and you have to disclose what they're doing. The US is catching up fast. So some of the agencies are also starting to realize, okay, this is important. And there's a lot of players on ESG here in the United States now too, and everybody's jumping on that bandwagon, but we all need to make sure that it's done in the most honest and transparent way.
I'm glad to hear that. I was afraid you were going to say that we're still way far behind and not catching up fast. So that's a good thing. Definitely. That's great. Eddy, there's so much talk about cultural diversity and inclusion lately. Everywhere it's been happening over the last couple of years. How do companies make it so that it's not just talk?
You have to demonstrate through your actions and your facts and your figures, right? And I think we need to demonstrate through what I was mentioning, like getting involved in your communities, like helping to support diverse communities, charitable donations as well. I think is very, very key to demonstrate that you are aware of the diverse communities in which you operate. Hiring, recruiting, talent, bringing people that have diverse opinions. Even on the board itself, you need to start hiring more diverse members, more females, more people with racial differences, with different sexual orientations. So I think action is just as important as just talking about it. And we're seeing more and more companies doing that. And we're starting to do that at our firm as well.
That's great. Yeah, I can imagine it. Actually, you just mentioned on the advisory level, that's probably a level that's way less diverse, probably in general, I feel.
Yeah, in financial services, just overall, I think there was sort of like a way that things operated that is also changing fast. So you're seeing a lot more emphasis on having more diverse boards, more diverse executive members, more diverse CEOs, and I think that's a wonderful thing, because it just brings much more wholesome opinions and ways to do things that probably were not entertained in doing before. And by doing that, people that are wanting to, that are looking for jobs will want to join a company like yours that is really open to embracing all sorts of cultures and races. So.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question in Spanish, so if you only speak English, you can skip it a few seconds. Eddy, ¿alguna vez te sentiste como hablas perfecto inglés, por ejemplo, ¿no es cierto? Y te criaste en México, pero te mudaste a una edad de pequeño igual que yo. ¿Alguna vez sentiste ese choque cultural o como que estás más asimilado, igual que yo, nunca lo sentiste realmente al choque cultural?
Sabes, Seba, agradezco que me hiciste esa pregunta porque definitivamente cuando me mudé aquí a una temprana edad, sí, fue muy difícil. Fue un shock cultural muy severo para mí. Llegué como a los 12 o 13 años de edad, ¿verdad? Y había mucho bullying, ¿verdad? En esas,
Sí,
entonces fue muy difícil adaptarme, inclusive me quería regresar a México de inmediato, ¿verdad? Entonces tomó bastante tiempo. Me ayudó mucho en mi desarrollo profesional y personal, pero sí,
sí.
sí fue bastante difícil al principio.
Qué bueno. Sí, sí, a mí me pasó lo mismo. Los primeros 2 años más que nada fue lo que más lo sentí. Después como que se fue eso, ¿no es cierto? Y creo que le puede pasar a cualquier persona de cualquier lado en los primeros años de... En realidad le puede pasar a alguien yéndose de una provincia a otro, de un estado a otro, ¿no es cierto? Pero definitivamente se siente ese culture shock.
Sí,
Así que,
definitivamente.
yeah, yeah. All right, we'll switch back up here. So, Eddie, you were a big part in launching Impact, which is an app for interactive brokers, specifically for that impact investing and ESG. You want to tell us a little bit about that product specifically? Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannaum.com. That's Sebastian, Naum.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's sebastiannaum.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the show.
Certainly. So, as you mentioned, very excited to have been a part of that project. We launched the app back in November of 2021 to our US clients, and then in December to all of our global clients. And it's a very unique app. I don't think there's any app like that out there in terms of sustainable investing and trading, because it really packs so much in there. And I can sit here and talk about it for hours, but at a high level, I was kind of alluding to it earlier, is that it allows you to invest with what you care about most, with your personal values, right? And that's how we start off in the app. So you go in and you select things that really matter to you, things that you really want to invest in, and with the power of your money to express yourself through them, right? And so that's right off the bat. We created 13 values inspired by things that we're seeing around. They're proprietary to IBKR, and I kind of alluded. We have LGBTQ inclusion, gender diversity, racial equality, clean air, sustainable business models. And so that really gives it a different spin than what you see out there, because a lot of different apps will probably just give you thematic, which is not a bad thing. Okay, you want to invest in climate, you want to invest in this, but this is like your own. It's kind of a fingerprint, right? You make it what you want to make it. And then the app itself will give you a score. How close are your existing investments? You get an A, you get a B, or a C. And then you can even drill down by value. If you selected clean air, gender equality, LGBT inclusion, but you really care about mostly clean air, then you can go into the clean air section and take a look at, okay, how are my investments doing from a clean air lens, right? And if some of your investments are not necessarily aligning very well, then the app will also tell you, okay, this is an opportunity for you to improve your score by looking at other companies,
That's
right?
so interesting. That is really unique. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're so excited. We wanted to make it really personal. And
Yeah.
the other exciting thing about it, Seb, is that we added a feature that we called Give, right? Which is not just about investing, but you also want to give back to your communities,
Yeah.
right? And so by you selecting your values right up front, you also have a personalized and customized donor experience. So once you go into the Give section, you'll see charities listed under clean air, or the ones that you selected, LGBT inclusion and others. So you can also give back. If you make a nice little profit, take that money and give it back, or you can donate whenever you want. If there's something happening in the world and you really feel like, wow, I really want to do something, I don't know what, but okay, let me give some money. And you don't have to give that much. I think the minimum a charitable amount is $10.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
so it's a wonderful thing to do. And we also added cryptocurrency for our newer generation. We added also a way for you to offset your personalized carbon footprint, right? And also off portfolios, pre-made portfolios. If you're not really very knowledgeable in social responsible investing, but you care about racial equality, we have a racial equality portfolio of securities that's already done for you. So you're able to invest in
That's
those.
awesome.
So the combination of those things make it very unique, and we're very proud
Yeah.
of it. Won a couple of awards, so we're very excited.
That's awesome, Eddy. Yeah, congrats. That's really cool. You mentioned crypto, and I already I was going to ask you about it, so I'll ask you about it right now. How do you see crypto investing in relationship to impact investing and sustainability and things like that?
Definitely, and that's something that's been on the news quite a bit, because it's not the most sustainable way of doing things, right? There's data mining that goes behind crypto, and I'm not an expert at all.
Bitcoin particularly
So,
is the one that has that wrap.
exactly, and so I think that the market is going to change, where there's going to be availability to be more sustainable on the crypto side, and that there are some discussions of some markets that are already looking to become more sustainable, for the reasons you just mentioned, because there's a lot of data mining and emissions that come as a result of that. So I think
Yeah.
in the future, we're definitely going to see a change.
I also feel that crypto, however, enables so much more freedom in so many ways, so people can actually, cause more impact too, that are maybe in places of the world that otherwise wouldn't have been able to invest in things that they care about through
Right.
maybe their bank. And they can do it now because of crypto. They have a different
Yeah.
type of reach,
The accessibility is definitely opened up much more through those
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
investments.
Super interesting. I love that. I read in an article, Eddy, that every $1,000 invested impact will plant 25 trees. Is that I read that somewhere? Is that something you guys are doing, or are there any other initiatives you guys are doing specifically as a company from a sustainability standpoint?
So yeah, that's something that we definitely help our investors with. Is we do care obviously about the environment, and we want to do something about it too. So that's an opportunity once you join the app to do something like that. But also as a firm, we are committed to giving back to our communities. And during the pandemic, for example, we did give out $5 million to quite a number of charities across the United States, and also to make an impact in our community. So we have to demonstrate, that we also care as a firm, and we're doing a lot to emphasize that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's this sort of thing that's a bit controversial in regards to giving versus enabling, right? And sometimes because first of all, giving back is 1,000x better than not giving, not caring about your communities or the problems around you and all that. And then there's also a lot of people that say that just giving and not enabling causes issues, right? How do you feel about that in terms of giving versus enabling, or giving to enable versus just donating, for example?
My personal opinion, Seb, is that I think it's important to give, but I think it's important to also give time and volunteering, not just money,
Mm-hmm.
because to roll up your sleeves and actually make an impact, and you're seeing it, it's really very fulfilling. But you also can change lives. Sometimes giving, and not sometimes, but a lot of the time you give, and you're hoping, and I'm sure that the funds get to what you want, but to actually see the people behind it, and to actually see them smile, or to thank you for your time and thank you for being here, it means a lot. Goes a very long way. So
Yeah,
I'm for just not writing a check, but for really finding local opportunities to give your time, and to
sure.
really make an impact that way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what you're giving in those situations is love, and that's what we all need the most. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. It goes a very long way.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, Eddy, everyone is talking about a recession coming, right? It's already kind of here. It's coming. It's getting worse. Nobody knows. There's so much uncertainty. We had a pandemic and real estate shot up. Nobody knows what the heck's going on. Um, you know, how do you feel about this? And first of all, yeah, how do you feel about all this talk about a recession, and how does that impact, particularly impact investing in general? Do you think that impact investing is a bit more protected, excuse me, or it's the same as everything else, and if everything else kind of goes down, it's going to go down, and then wait till it goes back up, kind of thing?
Sure, sir. So I will give you my personal opinion. This is not a company
Sure.
answer, because then I'll get into
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
Um, But I can tell you, I mean, there's definitely a lot of chat about a recession. I think it's very difficult to tell. I think a lot of us can sit here and guess, but we don't really know. And I think we are facing circumstances that are so unusual because I think the pandemic kind of threw us off. It was totally unexpected, and then all of a sudden the house prices shot up out in the suburbs, and but now the Fed is coming in, and I think there's going to be another reduction. An increase in rates,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's going to definitely shock the markets. Is the recession coming? I have no idea, Seb. I wish I could tell you. I don't know a specific answer. I know some companies are taking protective measures to start doing that, but
Yeah.
I do think it's not personally like a recession from back in 2008 where things were really, really, really bad,
Okay.
and we're
Yeah.
talking about bankruptcies and really, really severe scenarios. I don't think it'll be like that. In terms of the protection of impact investing, I do think that impact investing is kind of like a longer term play as well sometimes,
Yeah.
and I think we have to start thinking of looking into companies that are helping with the transition, right? We can't just discard everything. Okay, if there's a company that is in the fossil fuel industry or is doing something, you can't just say, "Oh, forget them. They're in the wrong." No, I mean they've been around for a long time, and if they are making efforts to transition, if they are really taking some of the profits from their legendary businesses and plowing them into renewable energy or into good causes, then let's give it a shot, right? So I think it's kind of like a longer term play, and it's important for all of us as human beings to realize that people change, companies change, and we have to give it a shot because we're all in it together. But I definitely think that it's a longer term play, and we're seeing, as I was saying, like climate change and other things are definitely going to put more emphasis on impact investing, and it's giving a huge focus on it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great advice. That's a bit of how that was my sentiment around impact investing in general. I feel that it is a longer term play in general, depending on what the industry is, but a lot of it seems to be a long term play. It's not the same as someone going, "Oh, I think the Amazon shares are going to shoot up to this based on this quarter's earnings or something like that." This is more of like a 5 to 10 year plan type thing, right? Or longer, a retirement type thing.
Hmm.
So I think that that's definitely important for people to consider, and for young ones to consider too. For those young investors that are excited about investing, it's not necessarily that you're going to cash out in 3 months or 6 months kind of thing, So, but hey, look, if I think at least too, if there is some sort of a recession, that those are the best times to invest, and those are the best opportunities, because it's not going to go away. And so I think that the fear around it is probably the worst part about it. It's the psychology around it,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Eddie, before you leave, I got to ask you, what do you think are the two most important traits that a conscious leader must embody?
Good one. Um, I would say that as a leader, you always need to look at the people that have helped you get there, or look at the people that are assisting you, right? And to help them also rise, right? I don't think that you can just continue to work independently and continue to go up the ladder or do your thing. You have to recognize people around you and recognize what they've done. And I think to become a mentor is so key and it's so
Mm,
important. I think that's key. And the second thing I would say is, and I'm going to give you three: transparency is so important.
mm,
To let people know where you're coming from, the rationale behind some of the decisions that you're making, why you took that step. That is just key. And communication. Always have the door open. Always allow people that are working for you or are working in parallel with you to provide feedback and to provide advice or guidance on things that you're doing. So I think those three elements really make for a very good conscious leader, and I think that only helps everybody around you and yourself.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm a big believer in transparency in communication, with everyone around, the company, and from the highest to the up to the junior level positions, and being able to express even things that are unrelated to work, if you know
Yeah.
that people can come in with some of their troubles and just be like, I'm having a bad day to do this and that, and be able to express that and feel, that love internally. And I think that the more communication there is like that, the more camaraderie, and people are actually more efficient, and then the companies can grow better and have more profits, and also impact more, because more profitable companies can further impact the world.
Definitely. And then you get loyalty, which I think is so
Right.
important, right? And people will stick around much, much longer, and will do all the things you just mentioned, which I think is
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. Eddy, well, you truly are a conscious leader yourself. So please keep being you and doing you. Really appreciate you being on. And yeah, I'm excited to share all the links in the podcast here for everyone to check out Interactive Brokers and Impact, the app. I'm excited to check it out. So really appreciate having you on today, Eddy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seb. This has been awesome. Love your podcast. Big fan, and continue doing the good work too.
Thank you, Eddy. Thank you very much. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. It takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content, and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.